Have you ever been wronged so deeply that the idea of revenge felt right? It's a familiar feeling. Primal, electric, seductive. Vengeance promises justice, control, balance. It whispers, they'll know how it feels. But here's the paradox. Revenge might feel righteous, yet it often consumes the one who seeks it. Welcome to today's reflection. Vengeance, the fire that burns the holder. We'll explore what ancient philosophers, modern thinkers, and spiritual traditions have said about this instinct we all carry, and what we can do instead. Because this isn't just about morality, it's about freedom. I'll take this in segments to help it sink in deeply. Segment 1. The instinct to strike back. Vengeance is an ancient instinct. It's older than civilization, older than law, etched deep into our biology. Evolutionarily, it may have served a purpose. Perhaps it once helped deter threats, protected our early communities, or enforced a kind of primal justice when no formal systems existed. In a harsh and uncertain world, the instinct to strike back may have kept us alive. But today, we're not just animals responding to stimuli. We're also thinkers, questioners, and the philosopher, standing at the edge of our impulses, gently asks, just because we feel it, does that mean we should act on it? Confucius offered a warning that still echoes across time. Before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. There's a haunting wisdom in that. He wasn't just speaking in metaphor. He was pointing to the deeper cost of vengeance, not just to the one we target, but to ourselves. And yet, how often do we fantasize about payback? Not necessarily in the name of justice, but in the pursuit of something else, something darker, satisfaction, the thrill of evening the score. This is the first trap. We confuse the temporary relief of pain with true healing. It can feel so satisfying, even noble, to lash out, to finally do something in response to the wrong done to us. But that satisfaction is fleeting, and when it fades, what remains? More hurt, more consequences, a cycle that continues to spiral. Our instinct for revenge is natural, yes, but philosophy, and perhaps wisdom, invites us to rise above nature, not to deny our feelings, but to recognize them for what they are: impulses, not commands; emotions, not ethics. To choose reason over rage is not weakness. It is strength in its highest form. It's saying, I will not be shaped by what hurt me. I will not become the mirror of what I despise. That's not just forgiveness, that's freedom. So when you feel the heat of vengeance stir inside you, pause. Step back. Ask yourself not just what you want to do, but what kind of person you want to be. Because real power isn't in payback. It's in choosing peace when war is easy. Segment 2. The Stoic View. You can't control others. The ancient Stoics, especially Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, offered guidance that still rings true today. What others do is not your concern. What truly matters, perhaps the only thing that ever really matters, is how you respond. Marcus Aurelius, in his quiet, introspective wisdom, once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Let that sink in for a moment. He wasn't urging us to turn the other cheek out of weakness, nor suggesting we simply accept injustice as passive bystanders. No, what he pointed to was something deeper. He was reminding us that true strength lies not in retaliation, but in transcendence. Think about it. When someone wrongs you, the natural impulse is to push back, to hurt as you've been hurt. That fire flares up. Your mind replays the offense over and over. And in a way, the offender continues to live inside your thoughts, rent-free. You carry their energy, their anger, their chaos. You become tethered to them by your own emotional response. And the Stoics saw this clearly. They understood that when you act out of vengeance, you aren't healing the wound, you're deepening it. You're allowing someone else's behavior to dictate your character. You're giving up your most sacred power, the power to choose your own response. But imagine a different way. Imagine observing the offense, acknowledging the pain, but choosing not to become the pain. Imagine being hurt, but not becoming hateful. That is the path the Stoic walks, not by pretending the injury didn't happen, but by refusing to let it define who they are. The Stoic doesn't suppress emotion, but they do train it. They feel the anger, but they don't feed it. They recognize the injustice, but they don't become unjust. They stay rooted in their principles, unmoved by the waves of external circumstance. And in doing so, they reclaim something essential: their peace, their clarity, their freedom. So the next time someone wrongs you, remember Marcus's words. Ask yourself not, what do they deserve, but who do I want to be? That's where the real power is. Not in revenge, but in refusing to mirror the very thing you wish to rise above. The Stoic wins, not by overpowering their enemy, but by refusing to become them. Segment 3. Nietzsche's warning. Don't become the monster. Friedrich Nietzsche gave one of the most chilling cautions in all of philosophy, words that echo with dark clarity across time. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process, he does not become a monster. And then, with equal weight, he adds, left double quotation mark. Nietzsche understood something essential about human nature, that the very act of confronting darkness carries a hidden cost. When we stand against evil, we take a risk not only in facing it, but in being changed by it. Vengeance is a mirror. It reflects not just the face of the one we pursue, but also ourselves. And the longer we stare into that mirror, into the hatred, into the obsession, the more we begin to change. Slowly, quietly, almost invisibly at first. What begins as a righteous cause, seeking justice, defending the innocent, can become something else entirely. It can harden the heart. It can strip away empathy, compassion, and perspective. The very traits that made us different from the monster we opposed begin to fade. What was once strength, rooted in love or duty, corrodes into something cold and unrecognizable. You may win the fight, you may defeat your enemy, but if you've become them in the process, what have you truly won? That is Nietzsche's wisdom. Fight, yes. Resist evil. Stand up for what is right, but know when to stop. Know how to retreat before the abyss has crept too deep into you. Defend yourself, but don't become your enemy. Because the tragedy isn't just in losing the battle. The greater tragedy is in losing yourself. Segment 4. Eastern thought. Letting go as liberation. In Buddhism, vengeance isn't just an act. It's a state of mind. It's a form of attachment, one that binds us tightly to anger, to ego, and ultimately to suffering. The desire to get even, to repay harm with harm, may feel powerful in the moment. But in truth, it keeps us tethered to the very pain we long to escape. The Dhammapada, one of the most revered Buddhist scriptures, offers a simple but profound truth. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. At first glance, especially to a Western mindset conditioned to value retribution, that might sound idealistic, maybe even weak. But look deeper. This is not a call to passivity. It is a call to courage. To let go of revenge is not to condone harm. It is not to forget. It is to stand in your own light and say, I will not let your darkness enter me. I will not allow the harm done to me to shape who I become. That is not weakness. That is power. Revenge often masquerades as justice. but it is a justice poisoned by attachment. Attachment to old stories, to wounded pride, to the need to control what cannot be undone. The Buddhist path invites us instead to loosen that grip. Not to pretend we are unhurt, but to choose not to live from that place of hurt. When we carry vengeance in our hearts, we carry the person who wronged us. We make them a permanent guest in our minds. But forgiveness, not as forgetting, not as excusing, but as release, is the quiet decision to evict that pain. To stop pouring energy into keeping the fire of resentment alive. This is not something that happens all at once. It is a practice. It is a daily return to clarity, a reminder. My peace is too precious to be held hostage by the past. So when the urge to lash out arises, pause, breathe, ask, what do I want more? Revenge or peace? Control or freedom? In the end, the choice not to retaliate isn't for them. It's for you. It's an act of protection, of healing, of deep strength. You are choosing not to let pain define you. You are choosing a different legacy. That is the essence of the Buddhist path. Not the denial of suffering, but its transformation. Let go. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Segment 5. Vengeance versus justice. A dangerous confusion. It's easy, dangerously easy, to confuse vengeance with justice. The two often wear similar masks. They can both arise from the same spark. A sense of wrong, a cry for accountability. But look closer, and you'll see that they are not the same, not even close. Justice is measured. It walks with a steady gait, its steps deliberate, and its hands open. Vengeance, on the other hand, rushes in. It's emotional, impulsive, and fueled by pain. Where justice pauses to weigh all sides, vengeance barrels forward, fixated on one. Justice is impartial. It seeks the truth, even if that truth is uncomfortable. It doesn't care about your personal stake in the matter, your history, your scars. It cares about fairness. But vengeance is deeply personal. It wants to settle a score. It remembers names, keeps tallies, and doesn't much care who gets hurt in the process, so long as the pain feels deserved. Justice aims to restore balance. It tries to heal what's been broken, to ensure the scales are set right again. But vengeance doesn't want balance. It wants to tip the scale. It wants someone to suffer, often more than they made others suffer. It wants satisfaction, not fairness. Philosopher Hannah Arendt, who studied the darkest corners of human behavior, once warned us, when emotion begins to drive punishment, justice begins to die. And she was right, because justice cannot survive in a heart burning with retribution. It suffocates under the weight of unchecked anger. True justice is bigger than us. It uplifts a society. It gives victims dignity without robbing others of theirs. It builds systems that discourage future harm rather than simply avenging past wrongs. Revenge, in contrast, perpetuates the very cycles it claims to answer. One pain leads to another. One wound opens the next. And nothing truly heals. The philosopher's mind knows this, not because it's cold or detached, but because it understands the cost of blurring that line. It knows the seduction of vengeance, the way it dresses itself up in righteous language, pretending to be noble. But the disciplined mind resists that urge. It refuses to disguise revenge as justice, no matter how satisfying it might feel in the moment. And so we must ask ourselves, again and again, in moments of anger or hurt, do we want what is right, or do we simply want to feel right? The difference is the soul of justice. And in that difference lies the path to a better world. Segment 6. Psychological consequences. Carrying the poison. Harboring revenge isn't just a moral dilemma, it's a mental health concern. And if you've ever held a grudge, you know exactly what I mean. You replay the event, the words, the betrayal, the injustice, over and over again, like a looped film stuck on its most painful frame. And while the person who wronged you may have long moved on, you're the one still carrying the weight. Now, science backs this up. Studies show that holding on to grudges doesn't just feel bad, it is bad. It increases levels of anxiety, it heightens symptoms of depression, and it intensifies stress. You're not just remembering a wrong, you're reliving it, day after day, moment after moment. You stay trapped in a cycle of resentment, where healing can't begin, because the wound is being reopened every time you recall it. There's an old saying, one you may have heard before, attributed to the Buddha, and it goes like this: holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Because when you harbor vengeance, when you nurture bitterness, you're the one being poisoned. You're the one whose sleep is disturbed, whose mind is preoccupied, whose peace is shattered. We often think that vengeance will bring closure, that if we can just make them feel what they made us feel, the pain will finally stop. But the truth is, it rarely works that way. Vengeance doesn't offer healing, it offers a delay, a temporary distraction. And, more often than not, it sustains the very hurt we're trying to escape. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is often misunderstood. It's not letting someone off the hook. It's not saying what happened was okay. It's not about condoning, excusing, or forgetting. Forgiveness, or even just release, is about letting go of the chain that keeps you tethered to your pain. It's about choosing freedom over fixation. So, no, you don't forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you do. And in that release, in that breath of surrender, there is something powerful. You don't have to carry this anymore. Let it go. Not for them, but for you. You deserve peace. You deserve your present. And it starts with putting the past down. Segment 7. Forgiveness. The higher path, not the easier one. Forgiveness is not about pretending nothing happened. It's not about excusing harm or minimizing pain. It's not about saying what they did was okay. No. True forgiveness begins with honesty. It starts by acknowledging the full weight of the wound. But then, gently and powerfully, it says, I refuse to let this pain write my story. That choice, because it is a choice, is one of the most courageous a person can make. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "To be angry is to avenge the faults of others on ourselves." Sit with that for a moment. When we hold on to anger, when we cling to resentment or the need to get even, we're not punishing the person who hurt us, we're punishing ourselves. Anger is like holding a burning coal and hoping it will scorch someone else. Vengeance feels like control at first, but it quickly becomes a cage. And we rehearse the pain over and over again. We turn it over in our minds, like a stone in our hand. Sometimes we do it without realizing, replaying the insult, the betrayal, the moment everything changed. But each time we relive that moment, we invite it back into our bodies, our breath, our peace. We become tethered to it. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it reclaims the future. It is, in many ways, a form of rebellion. In a world that tells us to hold grudges, to get even, to never forget, choosing to forgive is a radical act. It is a refusal to be controlled by what was done to us. It is choosing to heal when staying bitter would be easier. It's looking at the wreckage and saying, This will not be the end of me. That doesn't mean the pain disappears overnight. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's often a process, sometimes a slow one, but each step forward is an act of power. Not weakness, power. Because in the end, forgiveness is not really about them. It's about you. It's about setting yourself free. It's an act of radical self-care, a deep, defiant kind of clarity. It says, I know who I am, and I won't let this pain define me. So if you're holding on to something heavy, some old wound or deep betrayal, ask yourself gently, is it time to put it down? Not for their sake. Segment 8. When is resistance necessary? The role of boundaries. Let's be clear, this is not a call to be passive. Far from it. This is not about standing still while wrong is done, or waiting in silence while injustice walks freely. There are moments in life, perhaps more than we'd like to admit, when resistance is not just appropriate, it is essential. When silence doesn't really suggest consent, but becomes complicity. When choosing not to act is, in itself, an act of injustice. There's a time to raise your voice, a time to draw the line, a time to say, enough. But here's the distinction. This isn't a call to react from rage or to be swept away by resentment. This isn't about vengeance. It's about something more demanding, more courageous, principled action. Action that is born not from chaos, but from clarity, not from bitterness, but from purpose. Philosophy, true philosophy, is not an excuse to retreat into abstraction or to hide behind ideas. It is a compass. It helps us ask, what is right? What is needed? What kind of person do I want to be while I engage with the world? And from that place you move. You set boundaries. You speak truth when it's uncomfortable, maybe even when it costs you. You stand firm not just for yourself, but for those who cannot do so alone. You defend what matters, even if your voice shakes while doing it. But you do all of this from a place of integrity. You act not to wound, but to protect, not to dominate, but to uphold dignity. Yours and theirs. Yes, even theirs. The people who oppose you, who test you, who wrong you, they are not your excuse to abandon your principles. They are your challenge to live them more fully. And this is the razor's edge, isn't it? To fight without hatred. To resist without losing your center. To act without letting your heart be poisoned by the very thing you're standing against. It's easy to burn with anger. It's easy to let injustice harden us. But what's harder and infinitely more powerful is to remain rooted in justice. To stay open, even while standing strong. This is not a soft path. It takes real strength to show up this way, again and again. But this, perhaps, is the true measure of courage. Not how loudly you fight, but how clearly, how cleanly, how fully you can do so without abandoning who you are. Segment 9. Reclaiming your story. Vengeance is seductive. It tells you you're justified. It whispers that payback will bring peace. But what it really does, quietly, persistently, is lock you into a role. The role of the victim, the one who was wronged, the one who must now react. And in that cycle of reaction, of holding on to the past like a script you didn't choose but can't stop performing, your story stops evolving. You see, vengeance keeps you in the same chapter. It tells you that the only way forward is through getting even. But the truth is, when you let vengeance drive, it doesn't take you anywhere new. It loops you back, again and again, to the same pain, the same wound. But there's another way to see it. The philosopher's mindset offers a powerful alternative. Instead of clinging to the identity of the hurt party, it says, I reclaim authorship. I am not only the one who was hurt, I am also the one who chooses what happens next. I don't just react to life. I participate in shaping it. To take this path doesn't mean pretending that nothing happened. It doesn't mean denying pain or minimizing betrayal. It means acknowledging all of it and then choosing, with full awareness, not to let it define you. You're not obligated to carry bitterness forward. You can choose growth over grudge. You can choose strength over spite. The Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist Viktor Frankl gave us a profound insight. He said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." That space, that pause, is everything. That's where transformation lives. Not in the heat of the moment, not in the rush to retaliate, but in the quiet courage to choose differently. So here's the invitation: not to forget what happened, but to rise above it. To stop letting your pain narrate your life. To put down the script of vengeance and pick up the pen of possibility. To write a better chapter, one shaped not by what was done to you, but by what you decide to become. Because when you do that, when you step into authorship, you don't just move on, you evolve. You liberate yourself, and that, more than vengeance, is what healing truly looks like. Segment 9. Reclaiming your story. Vengeance is seductive. It tells you you're justified. It whispers that payback will bring peace. But what it really does, quietly, persistently, is lock you into a role. The role of the victim, the one who was wronged, the one who must now react. And in that cycle of reaction, of holding on to the past like a script you didn't choose but can't stop performing, your story stops evolving. You see, vengeance keeps you in the same chapter. It tells you that the only way forward is through getting even. But the truth is, when you let vengeance drive, it doesn't take you anywhere new. It loops you back, again and again, to the same pain, the same wound. But there's another way to see it. The philosopher's mindset offers a powerful alternative. Instead of clinging to the identity of the hurt party, it says, I reclaim authorship. I am not only the one who was hurt, I am also the one who chooses what happens next. I don't just react to life, I participate in shaping it. To take this path doesn't mean pretending that nothing happened. It doesn't mean denying pain or minimizing betrayal. It means acknowledging all of it and then choosing, with full awareness, not to let it define you. You're not obligated to carry bitterness forward. You can choose growth over grudge. You can choose strength over spite. The Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist Viktor Frankl gave us a profound insight. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space, that pause, is everything. That's where transformation lives. Not in the heat of the moment, not in the rush to retaliate, but in the quiet courage to choose differently. So here's the invitation, not to forget what happened, but to rise above it, to stop letting your pain narrate your life, to put down the script of vengeance and pick up the pen of possibility, to write a better chapter, one shaped not by what was done to you, but by what you decide to become. Because when you do that, when you step into authorship, you don't just move on, you evolve. You liberate yourself, and that, more than vengeance, is what healing truly looks like.